Friends forever. What's up and welcome to the Fervent 4. Did you know that only 4% of businesses ever cross the annual $1 million revenue mark? Hello, I'm Zack Miller, author of Anomaly. With me today, my co-host Tim Ryan, lead man at StartWheel.org. Thank you so much for joining us. The Fervent 4 is a weekly show. Yep, each and every week. On Thursdays at 11 a.m., dedicated to sharing insights into growing a world-class business, no matter the climate. Elizabeth Duncan-Hawker, a.k.a. the Red Hawk, is the queen of collecting true friends.
I think I've been just given a title. I love that. I'm the queen. I got queenhood. Regina, I collected two friends.
Okay. Well, you know, I'm a big wrestling fan. They always put some sort of descriptor around people to do it. So there's this lady named Charlotte Flair. They call her the queen.
Yeah, I wrote it down, man. I've got my title. I'm going to get my belt next. Get my belt.
The belt is like
sash on me.
I see it.
And then I can have my masquerade with it too, right?
Oh wow!
We're getting real. You know, there you go.
I'm ready.
We've never had a mask on the show, at least not that kind of mask. Usually it's covering the mouth, I guess.
That's right.
So it's changed. But the Red Hawk is something that's interesting. I think I feel like when I first met you, you didn't go by that.
I wasn't named that.
You weren't yet.
You all named me the community.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not your spirit animal?
It is her spirit animal. I mean, that's her mask on and everything. But explain the whole thing with Red Hawk, because I feel like where I have people look at me and be like, okay, Zack, the jeans and the t-shirt kind of guy, you knew what you were going to get. You were kind of, Tim is like the running man. I think people would say maybe the best hair in Hampton Roads. You are the Red Hawk. How did the Red Hawk come about?
So that's hilarious because I used it as a branding technique. So Red Hawk is a derivative from my last name, Duncan-Hawker. And when I had to name the business and go out to do consulting and then niching and speaking, I was like, well, I'd love to do something because if you can see me on camera, we've got the red mane that goes with it, right? So everybody has called me Red for years. And I was like, Red Hawk, that works. But what I didn't expect, Zack and Tim, was the community. So when I started going out into the events and started meeting people and everything, they would actually turn around and go, hey, the Red Hawk's here. Yeah. And I went, I'm right here. So sometimes we just have to go with what people, because it was a good thing. It was a good identifier.
But you had started telling yourself that, and the people had started remembering it.
The community named me that. They said Red Hawk because they saw Red Hawk Strategic Solutions as my business, and they saw me and said the Red Hawk's here. And so then I started introducing myself as, hey guys, I'm the Red Hawk, and I put it on LinkedIn, and it became like a good tagline. It's fun.
Yes, please call her the Red Hawk. Now, but Red Hawk is one word or two?
I do. It's two words right now. But then on my Clubhouse too, Zack, for example, I grabbed the Red Hawk as the handle on that. So I'm starting to use it more as a social media thing too.
So or no the?
Well, on there, Red Hawk was taken, so I had to take the Red Hawk.
Well, there's this guy, Sean Parker, a.k.a. Justin Timberlake. He says, remove the.
Yeah.
That's
that
from
would be
the social
nice.
Network Facebook.
Someone got ahead of me, daggone it.
That's weird. I would not anticipate someone taking Red Hawk.
I know, right? And then it was funny because I actually networked with another guy that I found, and his name of his company was very similar to mine. And I reached out and I went, wow. Okay, you should just let me have it and you shouldn't use it. Not very, very nice guy, but it didn't tie into anything. It wasn't branded. It was just I like the bird. And I was like, oh man, but I've got the red hair and the community knows me as this. So,
so domains were a big thing where people were buying domains.
I was just going to bring that
at some
up
point.
Too.
Are social handles a thing that people are buying? Because I cannot stand. And Elizabeth, if you do this, I'm ripping into you. Okay. And Tim, if you do this, I'm going to rip into you. When people have their kind of their handle, so a Facebook handle, their Twitter handle, their Clubhouse handle, all these things, and they're 17 different things.
Yeah, that makes me crazy.
The consistency is so silly to me. It's your domain and every single one of your handles must, and I mean must, be the exact same thing. Because to get someone to go back and to remember, to recall, to recite, to type the exact letters that they need, it's like, oh, well, was that on Instagram? Oh, was that on where?
Right.
Make it all the same. So are people buying? Is that what you were going to say?
Well, no, I was going to jump. Can I jump on my soapbox for just a second?
Please.
All right.
Can you stand up on it? Like, don't sit down.
Right.
No, come on. Let's see it.
But yeah, I mean, someone is trying to help out the community and share the story of everything that's going on. When I pick up different news pieces that take place of all the good work that founders are doing, and then I have to go around and then I have to search all the different, try to find all the different social media handles so that I can tag them appropriately. And it becomes a scavenger hunt that, a lot of times I just give up and they just don't get tagged. And, and I really want to give them a free shout out.
Yeah, it's annoying. And I know.
And a disservice to these companies.
What I'm seeing is that some people, because like I have a different handle between Instagram and it wasn't by design, by Instagram and Clubhouse because they didn't have it. Well, if somebody takes your thing, then you can't grab it. So something next to it. But my point is that I'm seeing people that are going back and then they're then saying, okay, then they're going to come up with the one and then they're changing all the platforms. But when they do that, then they lose the thousands of people that are following them, so that account's already built. Cause like on Instagram, cause I looked at it, if you change that, you can't, I don't believe you can change. Can you? I don't think you can change your title name.
Well, if someone @s you again, it would go, at least it used to, it would go to a page not found.
So, but I'm glad you're bringing this up because I want to talk about social media. So can I jump in and talk about that with friendships?
Yeah, I'm off my soapbox.
Well, let's as a good journalist, as a good guy, I start the story up so we can understand who you are first, and then we'll get into it. So, so friendships. A lot of people talk about those things. Collecting true friends. The author of that. This fancy little book. I always like to show that there are words in books. There isn't always in my book. No words. It's just 200 pages of nothing.
It's a good book.
A little what?
I've read it. I know there's words in there because I highlighted all the way through it.
Fake news. I always make myself laugh when I use those two words together. I don't know why. Okay, so just define friendships for us.
So friend is somebody that has your back. A friend is someone that that you want to be with. Maybe not right at the moment. Maybe something's not going great in their life, but over the long term, you get more energy and have a better exchange over a period of time. A friend is somebody who gets you and likes you who you are, and they don't want you to change, except they want you to be better. So your friend is the person that's going to say, hey, have you considered this? Or like, for example, with my friends, they kept pushing me to get the book out. They're like, do it. And I'm like, I've never been an author before. And they're like, do it. So a friend is somebody that pushes you out of your comfort zone, but by the same token, they wrap their arms around you and say, it's okay. Don't be afraid. That's, to me, is what a really great friend is. And a true friend is the person over time.
Is it easy to understand and recognize that as it's going on? Or... because I think a lot of people have associates.
You don't always, and that's where Zack and that's why I said and the subtitle of the book is be a magnet to those worthy of your time and devotion, because we don't know who's going to start out being a casual acquaintance. Like when you and I met and Tim met, we were colleagues. We knew each other through business. Friendships develop out of it, but that's if we are a magnet to others that are worthy of the time and devotion, then what happens is then eventually people go, you know what? I like that person more than just a colleague or a networking buddy. They're my friend now. And then you can call them up and they'll take your calls, right? So I think that's the hardest part, though, what I've noticed, and that's why I wanted the book to get out now, was because people are hurting, is that they have overlooked so many opportunities to collect friends and then convert them into true friends, because they just thought, oh, well, I just worked with that person, or I just did soccer, or they were in my running club, or I saw them at the gym, or they're my wife's, coworker. But they could have been amazing friends and they miss it.
In your opinion, Elizabeth, how many friends or how many true friends can one person have before it gets to be too much?
Well, that's funny you asked that, Tim, because I disagree with one of the biggest studies there is. So Dunbar, Dunbar study indicates that we can have about 150 close people in our world. And I don't agree with that, because if you think about that, that's taking 15 years. If you look back in 15 years, that's saying that I could have only brought 10 people in. And then so 10 times 15 would be 150 people. So it would mean that I would be like flushing out a whole bunch of people in my life to make room for the new people. So in my opinion, it is what's your capacity. And in the book, I talk about bandwidth. And it was funny because when I was using that term, because we all know that in business, but I wasn't sure if people would know that in a personal thing, but it depends on what you're comfortable with. But my bandwidth can hold a lot because I can pace people and I can say, I really want to catch up with you, but this is a busy month, but I'll send them some love on a text, or like Zack loves to send audio texts in different modes. So I'll stay in touch with them, but then I'll catch up with them in person. So the answer is what you feel comfortable with, and then grow some. Because most people say, well, I'm good with only like 3 close friends. That's not enough. And you got to look over time, in my opinion, and say, okay, I got 3 close friends right now, and say I'm 40 years old. Okay, but what are you going to do when you get 50? Because 50 is going to be around the corner soon here. And if you don't do something to make sure you seed in some new people that you like in your life, and then you get out of those sports or recreations or neighborhood, or you move, or you're not doing that anymore, those 3 close friends, maybe only one of them is going to really like who you are. Because like in my case, I'm an entirely different person than I was 10 years ago. I'm not the corporate exec anymore. I'm not hanging with W-2 people, as I call them, people that are working for a living. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a speaker. I'm a trainer. I'm an author now. My whole world is different. But the people that got to stay my friends were the ones that were okay with that. I did have some friends who were like, what are you doing? And that's where Zack and I actually met, because I did a speech for him. I told him when I first met him, I said, so many of my corporate high-paying people friends think that I've lost my ever-loving mind going out here. And he's like, that's good. Come do your talk. So I did a talk on leap of faith, going from being a W-2 to a 1099. And your friends have to get that you're not going to be the same person. And if you are with people, and I'll share this out here too, if you're with people that are in your life and you want to try something new, no matter what it is, I mean, you may want to try, rock climbing, or you may want to garden. I mean, it could, whatever you're interested in, right? And your friends look at you and they go, what are you doing that for? Why would you do that, right? Or just come over with us and hang out and watch the game. You need to really question if that's the person that's going to push you forward.
Is it a jealousy thing in that case, or is it like that they're just jealous, or like how do you?
That's
because I think there's a difference between. I think we've all seen this, right? I don't know why I did that. Like stop right there.
Stop in the name of love.
I think there's a difference between like common courtesy to like be worried about you,
yes,
in a way, like a safe repelling rock wall, compared to being like, go do this thing. Right. So like there is a difference in that thing. And maybe it's depending on the extreme of it. But like, where do you see that person isn't actually in your corner, but they're actually against you in that case? Because I could see people just being concerned, saying, hey, I'm worried about you doing that thing. It seems to be a little ridiculous that you think that you can just all of a sudden go climb Mount 2 or K2, whatever it's called. Right. With no, physical work towards that. Cause I feel like that's something that it takes a while to get towards. Right. Where do you see that kind of difference of jealousy, common courtesy, actual love for that person, and actually just the person being a complete tool when you need to get them out of your life?
I love that complete tool. Well, the thing I like to do though is ask a little bit more. And so you all are the reporters here. But so I like to ask them and go, okay, I'm picking up that you don't understand what I'm trying to do here. So could you give me a little bit of idea? Am I missing something, or what's your concern for me? And then it's interesting because sometimes Zack and Tim, what the person does, and they've done this to me because I run. I mean, my speed of light is like, okay, we're ready, set, go. And sometimes those people will their friends will say something, and then I'll go, oh, crud, I hadn't thought about that. So asking them why they're concerned, or asking, because I can usually with me, because I'm so high energy, they'll turn around and they'll say, well, it's Elizabeth, because we don't want to see you burn out. We don't want to see you take on too much. We know we've seen you're just running. You need to have some downtime. So are you doing your self-care? Are you resting enough? And then I'll go, oh, thank you for reminding me that I need to get some more sleep. But if it's the person that then says, and then they want to put the seeds of fear in there, Zack, that's the clue to people. So if your gut and your mind and your head are going, they're trying to put seeds of fear in me because they're afraid. They've never written a book. They've never started a business. They've never moved out of state. They've never started a savings account and got a retirement. They've never done anything except what they were comfortable doing. Then don't let those, may not, like you said, they may be a tool. They may be somebody that was great where you're at initially, but are they holding you back? Because we've got to have people in our life that make us better. I mean, I would never have gotten my master's if one of my best friends since I was 14 had turned around and said, hey, over here at this university, we can go do this, and we can do it in the evening school. And that was decades ago. And I was like, we could. And I had 3 kids at the time and a husband and working 60-hour corporate. But I knew if I didn't get my master's, I wouldn't make the 6 figures and get to the next place I wanted to be. And I went, holy cow. And she figured it out. Did she continue to do it? No, she bailed on it. But I got my master's with it. But she inspired me to get there. If she hadn't been in my life to do that, I probably wouldn't have my master's today. My career wouldn't have taken where it was. So who are the people that make us better? We need those in our life, but not the ones that plant the seed capsules, because those things sprout. They like come out of your ears, your head. Like you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do it.
So where that challenge that you faced between those that supported you and those that planted that seed of doubt, is that what inspired you to write this book? How did the book come about?
Actually, Tim, it was divine inspired. So when I started teaching professional networking, which was a result of the Red Hawk, I was doing niching and messaging and helping people grow their sales by figuring out their marketing. Then what happened is, over time, they also asked me, they were like, well, can you teach me how to do that thing that you do? And I'm like, what thing do I do? And they're like, the thing where you walk up to people and you remember their names and like and then you get their cards. And I'm like, you mean networking? So that was in 2018, 2019. So I started having boot camps and academies teaching people, okay, this is how you get memorable in a great way. This is how you show up and you stay top of mind. And when I did that in business, then what I found out was, when I was working with those people, they wanted more. And they were like, well, I don't understand but these people have also turned into your friends. I see it's not just business. What are you doing there? So that's when I really realized, I thought, gosh, there's more to this than just gathering up people to network and referral to you to grow sales. It's actually, people are lacking the ability to do interrelationships and skill building. And they don't teach us that in school. They do not teach us that in school. If you think about high school and college, there wasn't a class that said,
is that like soft skills?
Right, the whole soft skill. But they do it from if they teach it in marketing from how to sell something, but they're not teaching like how to genuinely engage with people and keep a friendship. And then, like on the subtitle, like I said, be a magnet to those worthy of your time and devotion.
You like that word, magnet.
Be a magnet. We have to be that person that others want to know. I talked yesterday on a show and they were asking about, well, what's be a magnet mean? And I said, it's be intriguing, be interesting. There's so many people we meet and then they say, Elizabeth, people don't remember me. They remember you because you're red hair or, I go, they also remember me because I make conversation. I ask them about them. I'm interested in them. So if you're not interesting or interested in somebody, you will not be memorable. And
you did a good job you did a good job right there of explaining that. Like, you didn't know what it was at the time, right? Yeah. You didn't know. You didn't know. I'm trying to find your video. Another video popped up. I'm trying to find that 1099 W2 1099 video so I could show it, but I another video popped up. Okay. So you did a good job of articulating that. Oh, you have this thing where you're just gregarious, you're spontaneous, you have all these God-given natural abilities, whatever. We all have that. You just haven't figured out how to capitalize on that and be as loud and proud as possible on that. Right. So for me, I went to dozens, hundreds of networking events, your chamber events, your BNI events, all of them. And I would look fairly similar to everyone else, right? I'm not saying I was in a suit, but I would walk in and I would be like everyone else. One day, for whatever reason, I rolled in like I normally dressed outside of business, like jeans and a t-shirt, right? And it was at that point when I started seeing, and I had been going to these events for months, years, never got the real attention that I thought I deserved, earned, whatever, until I started dressing like I normally did. And then people went, oh, who is this guy? And I was able to have deeper conversations with them because I got past that first level. That's when I started doing that same thing by dressing differently than others every single time. And then that became, the Zack Miller wardrobe, if you will. And I played off of that. We all have something like that. We're just not doing it, or we haven't dug deep enough to figure out what that is, right? So you are Red Hawk. I'm jeans and a black t-shirt type of thing. I don't know what that was pre-COVID. I don't know what I would be now. I'm just straight up wearing mesh shorts every day for the last 2 years. It's been wonderful, right? Tim might be his hair, the running guy, hair. Right? Fabulous. I mean, this dude has won literally the 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2020, and soon to be 22 best hair of the 757.
A lot of pressure though, man. It's a lot of pressure.
I know. You see these long locks of love coming out. I'm like, I'm going for you in 2K22. Watch out. You put a lot of twos up, and I'm ready for pancakes, and I'm going to beat you in that year. But
you should have said pancakes. Now I can't focus.
Waffles, whatever, apple fritters.
Zack, you talked about dressing different. Another great thing is people with accents. So I work now with connect with a lot of people internationally. And thanks to the Canadians made my book international bestseller. So yeah. So now I'm joking with them. I'm like, right? So because they end a sentence, so I'm learning how to use their and then they're learning how to use my y'all. And then I had to explain to them the other day when I said, I'm going to go do that. They're like, gonna? And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. That's bad English. I'm going to. I said, but then you certainly wouldn't understand if I said I'm fixing to do it next. So accents are another great way.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. See, some people freak out the clothes aspect of it. Oh, that's not professional, Zack. You can't do that. How dare you go to an event looking like that? You're right. But guess what? It got me to where I was.
It works.
Right? It got me the TV show. And then even when I got the TV show, I was like, I'm not wearing a suit. And that was a big ordeal for a little while for many parties involved, right?
I bet. Well, and like when I left corporate, I really, in fact, I've gotten pointing to that spot over in my wardrobe area. I've got a whole closet filled with corporate clothes that I was having a realization the other day. And I'm like, besides maybe putting the blazer on because you get cold, I think it's time to donate those because I don't show up like that. I show up in, zippy dresses and high top boots and I could have never gotten away with that in the corporate world because I was expected to be. And of course, I was able to grow my hair back out. So, in the corporate world, I was expected everything was pinned up all the time.
Why is that?
It's because they have this illusion that women won't be taken seriously. And I got news for you. I'm 5'7" and my voice is deeper than most women. And when I wanted to get the men's attention, I would bring it down another notch and I would stand up there in my high heels and look them in the eyes. I never had a problem with a man taking me seriously in business. But it's this just old myth thing that they expected it. I mean, but I think accents are great. I also think, like you and I loved when back, this was pre-COVID, so it's not a unique line now. But I remember in 2019, our favorite line to someone was, hey man, what are you watching on Netflix? I mean, nobody was asking anybody that, right? So we were throwing out okay.
Pioneer.
Yeah, we were pioneers, but we were like, okay, here's something I'm doing. Or here's something I want to do. I'm thinking about, I might get into sailing, but I haven't done this in decades. Or, hey, I just rescued another dog, and then it's amazing when we make ourselves interesting and we are interested, because if the person turns around, now I've thrown that out about the rescue dog, and then they go, I just got a dog. Then I shut up about me and I lean in about them. And that's the part where people like miss it, because they think, oh, well, they want to know more about my dog. No, you've just like checked the box, like, hey, there's a common denominator we can talk about. And
That's the key.
the tango starts.
The common
right?
denominator, right, is figuring that out, right? And
Right.
so it could be the Buffalo Bills. It could be, what are you watching on Netflix? It could be it could be running. It could be so many different things. It's figuring that out. People are like, well, I don't have Netflix. That seems stupid. Find a common denominator. That's the key thing.
Well, and I think that even taking a step back, we mentioned the book Green Lights in a previous episode, but one of the nuggets from
Matthew
Green
McConaughey's
Lights,
book.
was the fact that his mother taught him at a very young age, listen, boy, when you walk into a place, you walk in like you own it, not like you're looking to buy it. And so you give off that era of confidence, and that's something that people can be drawn to. And I think that that's a very good first step if you're looking to attract or to be that magnet, that you have that level of confidence as you approach people.
Have you read that book, Elizabeth?
I don't think so. Tell me the name of it.
All right.
Yeah.
Wrote it. Matthew McConaughey. I actually read it a second time, Tim, recently, just to see how it was. It was better the second time.
He's a good Texan.
He's what?
He's a good Texan, Matthew McConaughey.
He seems like
He's
I
a good
rank
guy.
people.
I would like to hang out with him.
How many beers would I want to drink with this person?
Exactly.
I would want to drink a lot of beers with that guy, and I bet it would be amazing, right?
Sign me up when you all are getting ready to. I'm on the beer drinking tour and that.
Yeah,
Tim, you talked about confidence, and I got to tell you, with everybody that I'm talking to right now, that is the big thing that it was just like you. So I'm writing down keywords here. It was like, ding, 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 you win the magic prize and that. But it's the confidence, because I really believe that people think, I don't have the confidence, or I just couldn't walk in a room, and you tell me I should walk in the room and act like I don't own it, but it's like, or I do own it, but I couldn't even talk to people. But that's where if you arm yourself with those good questions, some things that you think somebody might be interested or have shown that they were intrigued by you before, and do something, and then give a genuine compliment, not a BS compliment, but a nice one. Hey man, you're rocking that sweater, or, love that necklace or something like that. Just something, but it's a kind gesture to start with it. You will be surprised that then the people will actually pause to listen to us. But confidence, you don't have to have confidence. I totally agree. And I'm going to read his book with Matthew. You can fake confidence. You can pull your shoulders back. And I put this in the book. I said, as being the little Viking, because I was picked on a lot. Nobody looks like me. Redheads with blue eyes, if you don't know it, are 1% of the whole population. We are a genetic mutation. So everywhere we traveled, we moved 7 times before I was in high school. I was always that person that people made fun of or didn't want to talk to because I was strange, or I was the new kid. And what I learned is when you lift your head up and you put those shoulders back and you do that, guess what? You don't get bullied as much, because they're not, it's like all of a sudden they don't know what to do with you. And if you just stand there and you smile and you look approachable with your shoulders back, people are drawn to you because they're like, what's she got? What's he got going on?
How do you start implementing that if you're, let's say, 35 years old, right? And your whole life you've been afraid of that. You've neglected that side of it. You are an introvert. You are not into that game. And then now you're saying, hey, by the way, implement all this other stuff. Like, how do you start to implement something like that you are absolutely terrified of doing?
Well, one thing I would hope,
because all three of us, I think, are actually more on the extroverted side of things, that we're not afraid of doing things like that. But so
except Zack, I would challenge you. So for example, think about me, because Red Hawk came out January 2016. So that's coming up on 6 years. So think about that. I was terrified. I'd always been branded as a corporate exec. I've never been an entrepreneur. I was in awe of you all. I was like, wow, these people have created businesses and they have ideas and they launched them on their own. And I'm used to having all these departments behind me that give me all the answers and resources, and they figure it out themselves. I was terrified. So there was a lot of fake it before you make it. So I would answer your question with one is, hopefully the person has at least one good, solid, trusted friend. And if they have that in their life, tell that person, say, look, I want to be better at. And if it's being better at talking to people, say, can we get the next time we're out somewhere, can you kind of give me a social clue or a nudge, or could we work out? And I did this with one woman. I said, how about we work out a secret word? And when I say the secret word, then, so don't laugh, but then I said, then that's your point, that's then when you're going to be quiet. Because in her problem, she got so nervous being in public, and she lacked the confidence that she would not shut up, and people just kind of glazed over and walked away, right? So she missed it. So if you can ask one of your good friends, or maybe someone in your family, for like, what's the thing you think I could do better connecting with people, and then start taking some of that advice, but only get it from somebody who's, once again, like we talked at the beginning of the show, who's got your best interest in heart. So if you know they got your best interest at heart, then ask them and say, what's that thing you think I can do? And then you'll be gold. You will be able to do that. But I got to tell you, I was that person, and I still am. When I go into a military event and they start talking about, yeah, we had the CPUs and the SOPs and GI, la 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 la. I mean, I'm like, oh my.
Yeah. Another thing that I would add, kind of piggybacking off of Kim's piece, where she says she's struggling breaking into this thing where for 30 plus years she's been told to do this. I don't know how old she is, but you know, you're being told forever, don't do this thing or act this certain way. I can completely understand where it becomes something that's difficult. The way I would look at it is probably the way that people should look at weight loss, right? You didn't gain all that weight overnight. You're not going to lose all that weight overnight. So it's going to take a little bit of a time. And if you only do it once a month, and it's going to take 35 different situations for you to figure that out, that means you have to do that for, what's that math? 3 years, right?
Right.
So look at what a dietitian will tell you. Lose 1 pound a week, right? That's what they'll say is taking off 500 calories a day of what you should normally do, right? Just a little bit every single day. If you want to improve your social skills in this thing, that means you have to do something every single day to accelerate that a little bit, right? And so if you don't accelerate that, if you don't look at it from it's a baby step purpose, it's going to be difficult. You're not just going to jump in and say, oh, I'm going to write a book tomorrow. No, you're probably going to write a chapter or a half a chapter or a quarter of a chapter, because it just takes a little bit of time every single day to get better at that. You know, Tim Ryan, it took him 17,000 days straight to qualify for the Boston Marathon. When he finally did it, it was like, yo, I finally did it. You know,
I've arrived.
It was the shoes, it was the motor that he had, it was the fact that he got into a car and drove around a couple of miles that he didn't have to do. I'm kidding. It was all him. But it was those baby steps to get to that piece. And I think just like everything else, you have to look at it as, it's very difficult to make this thing overnight. If you look at it from an overnight perspective, you're going to worsen the situation. So you have to look at it from an elongated process.
And it's like, if you want to be like a hero, I mean, you get kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You walk into a place, you're not feeling super confident. If you look for that other person in the room that has nobody to talk to, and it's just really uncomfortable, and you talk to that person, you're a hero to that person. And then once you get that person to open up, you've made a friend, possibly forever. You made them comfortable, and then the conversation just starts. Very easy first step.
And I think Zoom has really hurt us a lot. And I do want to go back to social media, because that's where we were talking at the beginning, and you graciously introduced me, because Zoom and the technology and all of this, it's really hurting people. Because talking about the practicing, we can't just like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go to 3 things this week, so I'm going to 3 times it. So then I'm going to, within 6 months, then I'm going to have like X amount of exposure. Okay, I'm feeling more confident with how to introduce myself or hold my shoulders up or what to wear, right? So Zoom has really, this whole Skyping and Zooming and webinar stuff, it has damaged so many of us from being able to have the ability to then connect in person, because one, you can't read the rest of my body language here. So you're seeing this, I'm in a box here, and you're not getting the whole 55% of my body language. So 55% of your communication skills come directly from seeing the entire body, okay, on how effective you're understanding what I'm saying to you. So for example, if I showed you like my feet and I was standing and we were in person, you might see that maybe I'm pigeon-toed, you know, or maybe I'm like taking a really wide stance, which is a power pose, right? So depending on how my standing is, you might get a different impression than how the top of my body is. Our words, if y'all don't know this, because I love this information here, I'm kind of like a geek on some of these communication skills. 38% of our effectiveness comes from our tone and our voice. So that's why it's so super important to pick up the phone and still talk to people. And that's what Zoom has removed. What are we doing? We're going in and we're using our 7 effective skill. Words are 7% effective. So we're going into the chat. Hey, good to see you, blah, blah, blah. Or here's my question. And I don't have to talk to anybody anymore. I don't have to worry about my tone and fun, and nobody sees me. So it's really important. Social skills are a muscle. I'm going to say that again. Social skills are a muscle. If you use them, just like your dog, I read an article 2 days ago, and it said, if your dog has been locked up in the house, haven't been socializing, do not take your dog out to a group or the park and go, hey, we're back out of the park. Let the dog ease back into it. So they said small groups and let them warm up. And yet as human beings, we're not doing that right now. We've gone from where they're on camera, like we're doing here, or then all of a sudden, bam, we're in presence and standing trying to talk to somebody. And we're confused right now. It's damaged us. It's going to take some time for us to get comfortable. So imagine, back to your question, Zack, with, well, what do I do if my confidence isn't all that to begin with? Well, that's why you got to have the safety. You got to have the network of somebody who's with you, that has your back, that's like, this is how I thought you did better, or here's my secret word that I said that's either going to tell you to, now it's time for you to ask a question, or, you know, queue up. I can't tell you how many times I'll be standing there talking to somebody that to try to help them see this. And I'll say, hey, Mike, can you believe that Sue is into that? Wow. Like, who would have? And then Mike, all of a sudden you can see him like wake up like, oh, what? It's like, okay, dude, it's like the volleyball, right? I spiked it to you. Okay, get it, Mike. Okay, to Susie. It's like, okay, great. And then I can get them to start a conversation, but Mike may not even have a clue. So
do we have a list of secret words though? Because I'm really interested. What
I know, right?
You never.
I will say that one interesting thing. One interesting thing about Zoom, though, that I think that if someone who may lack confidence or is that the real estate on Zoom is the same. Everybody gets the same size square, whether if you're the CEO, you're worth $100 million, or you're an entry-level position. So from that standpoint, it's interesting that everyone gets the same real estate. No one, so it levels the playing field from a communication standpoint from that way. And I've heard other people say that, hey, that's a good thing because, hey, you're just like me. We're all the same. And I feel more comfortable jumping in and sharing what's on my mind.
And I think a lot of kids, anyone younger than me, likes this as their safety mechanism. And I think that the face-to-face, I mean, there are kids who like hang out literally in a room together, and they're on this this is what they do. And so like that's I think there's going to continue to be a hybrid of this. And I think that while the three of us are more comfortable than some of others getting on stage and doing things like that, I do think we're going to have to figure out, people are going to have to continue to figure out how to screenify their social skills so that they can
screenify. I was trying to pull up a photo here for you. I want to show you these two women that came over. I was at a book signing event, and these two women came over and they were jumping up and down. And I'm thinking, oh, is something wrong? And they're early 20s. They came over, grabbed the book, and said, oh my gosh, can you come to my sorority? we don't know this. We need to make friends because our whole life we've been on devices in front of everybody. And they're like, are you the author? And it gave me chills. And I was like, yeah, I am. So there's the two beautiful young women. And it was like, and I'm like, absolutely, I'd be happy to help you. I mean, so in that moment, and you're right, Zack, because even though this is their comfort zone, they're now realizing it. They're like, I got to go out in the world and I don't know how to, like, what, or why is this person not, and they loved it when it said true friends. Why is this person not acting like what I think should be a true friend?
Can family be true friends?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. That's a really good one, because in the book under situational friendships, I talk about the necessity for us to then evolve, particularly with our siblings, because with our siblings or different, or maybe it's your niece or your nephew, or so they're younger than you, they're older than you. However, here's the thing though, is that families have a tendency to, they peg us, right? They put us, okay, well, you've always been here. You're the younger one, you're the older one, you're the wiser one, you're the richer one. And then they don't see us as a person. So in the book, I talk a lot about how do we change the way we talk to them and rephrase our expression. So my answer is yes. Family members can become friends. However, ... we have to be aware that, are we acting like a friend? And I give one example in there, perhaps like with the aging parent. Aging parents don't need their kids to dote on them and nag the living heck out of them and go over and move their stuff around. They don't need that. What they need is they need an adult who's going to act like an adult, and treat them like a friend. And so I absolutely believe that friends can happen in families, but do they happen? Yeah, you really got to work at it. So it's a rarity, but when it happens, it's beautiful. And I have seen it in many cases. It's beautiful when it happens.
What did we finish this the talk about social media? The point
No,
that you wanted to make? Yeah.
Is it okay to go there? Because I really want to give you guys one of my epiphanies on there that I found. When I started that chapter, it's at the beginning of the book on, because we go through like, here's your inventory, here's what you need to do to be worthy. And then we're going into, okay, can you find friends on social media? I had to rewrite the chapter because it was coming out, it was during COVID. And my opinion was that you cannot make true friends. You cannot do that on social media. So I went out and I interviewed. I used Clubhouse as my tool, and I interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people. And I was like, okay, tell me your story. How did that work? See, I learned from you, Zack. Tell me your story. How did that work? How did you connect? And then what I realized is that that's an old thought. You can make amazing friends connecting. If you hear their voice, so go back to, remember I said 38% of our communications comes through voice and tone, 55% of it comes through body language. So you cannot do it on words alone, my friends. You have to go in there. You cannot be just because your Facebook posts, which I'm not a fan of Facebook, but Facebook and some of the other things, you have to actually then take it off the social media, direct message them, tell them why you're interested in it. And so the book walks through some steps on that. But for example, yesterday when I was on the show with the lady who was Australian, she and the woman that were interviewing me have become best friends. They met socially online through one of the apps. They talk weekly. Now they've started a business. They've started the show, right? They've never met each other in person yet. That's something they're looking forward to because Australia is still on lockdown. They're just coming out of it. So it's fascinating. So I had to change my whole thought on, is it possible that you could make a true friend? So back to Zack's original thought, like, well, how do I get out? I'm 35. How do I find people? So you can find people on, I don't mean like dating, but I mean, you can find them. And if there's an interest and there's something they're posting and they're like, hey, I'm into this, you can follow back up with them like, oh, you're doing a fundraiser for such and such. Okay, great. I'm in. So there's ways to like find the people, your tribe, and then see if it's going to fit. But I didn't tell you this part, and this is in the book too. At the very beginning, what I really tell everybody to do is you got to sit down and you have to write out your values. If you don't know what your values are and what you stand for and what you don't stand for, and I call them the non-negotiables. If you don't know those non-negotiables, let me tell you, my friends, you're going to continue to bring people in your life that should not be in your life. And then you're going to get frustrated and you're going to think this whole friendship thing is wasting my time. So know your values before you look for people on social media.
So how do you recommend if someone's to violate those values, how do you recommend to people to, for lack of better terms, end that friendship or create that distance and space?
One is they have to communicate up front, though. They have to first, they got to cool off. Please, 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 please cool off. So if you get upset with somebody that they've done something, do not assume that the person was automatically being a total jerk on purpose, because sometimes things happen. And I can tell you, benefit of own experience, that luckily sometimes that I asked for a second opinion of somebody and I'm like, why would somebody do this? What? And I was getting ready to be so upset or annoyed, right? And then somebody threw that in there and they were like, well, Elizabeth, it might have been. And I went, oh, I hadn't thought about that. So either first get a second opinion. Thirdly, make sure you're cooling off. Okay. And then circle back to the person just to make sure and just say, hey, Alyssa, this really, like, when we were talking last week, you said that, and I don't know if you knew this, but, and then when Joe laughed at it, guys, you guys really kind of just, I almost felt like you were making fun of me or whatever the thing is that you're like feeling upset about, or like you were pulling me down or you're not believing me. But we have to communicate back somewhere in there to give them a clue, because this is what I've learned. When I've done that, the people go, what are you talking about? And so I will repaint the moment and they're like, oh my gosh, oh no, that's not what I meant. Usually, you can see if it's sincere. Okay. So one, it's like, I misread it. Or if I said like, for example, you seemed really disinterested in this whole thing that I've opened my heart. And this is a true story that someone told me. She said she finally got around to the point. She opened her heart. She told somebody something that was really heavy on her heart. She was dealing with. It was hard to be that vulnerable. And then her friend just looked at her and was like, I think it's going to rain tomorrow. And the person just totally and what it did is the person who was telling that and conveyed it to me later said, I just felt like I thought we were closer and I never want to talk to that person again, but it made her angry. So I recommended, I said, please circle back, just candidly say to her, look, I thought I could share that with you. And I know it's funny, right? But when it's happening to you, it's like, seriously?
Is it because some people just like their emotions, their I don't know what the word is, but whatever it is with it, like you don't have the same feeling. So like you don't, it's kind of like when,
real quick, as you're thinking about that, Zach, the other thing that I think that complicates everything is that people are a whole lot more confident behind a keyboard than they are face to face.
An actual keyboard,
yes,
not a Zoom
call.
People
would never say, most people would never say the things that they're going to type in their keyboard face to face to somebody. The level of confidence and the sharpness of the elbows increases on a keyboard.
Hello, trolls.
Face to face, right?
Well, and you know what, that in that instance, so when the lady who I said, please just go back before you're write her off. Right.
What's it wouldn't matter to that person.
Said, before you do that, and don't assume that she wasn't feeling your heart. I said, just please have a conversation with her. And the woman said, well, one, I was trying to focus on what you were saying. It was so much information, I couldn't absorb it. And then secondly, I had to put my dog to sleep yesterday. I wasn't quite myself.
Well, you never know what that person's going through too.
And I'm really sorry because I probably wasn't listening as much, but I was trying to follow with the conversation and it was so deep and you were so much and you were so upset. I just kind of just blanked out and I didn't know what to do because I felt like I didn't even know how to respond. So see, that's the openness that then what did let the hurt person do? The hurt person was able to come forward and go, oh, well, I thought it was just that you never wanted me to tell you anything like that anymore. And that's why a lot of guys I've seen, I've stood there while one guy opened up and said something to another guy. Cause I know, and in my book, I talk about man talk. I love you all. And I love how you man talk. Okay. But I have actually watched a guy open up and say something and the other guy goes, yeah, man, well, that's too bad. You want to go get another beer? And I'm standing there going, oh my God, could you have at least been well, are you doing okay now?
But the beer makes it better.
But but it was in this guy, and I'm like, okay, he just told you something really, It's what he told you sounded like a country western song. My wife left me, my dog's dead, my cow's dead. I mean,
I think sometimes people just don't. It just doesn't hit people the same way. Like it's like roll off. It's just like whatever, and it's just like and like I feel like I'm that person, and I feel really bad even saying that. But it's just like, okay, like that's unfortunate. Like, yes, that happened, and it sucks. We got to move on.
I think that location has something to do with that too, in terms of different cultures. Like down here in Hampton Roads, everything is a lot more touchy feely. Maybe it's because it's a little more southern, but like you go up someplace like Northern Virginia, DC area, they'll stab you in the front and be like, "Hey, you ready to go grab lunch?" Or
you're like, walk it off.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, I could never do business with someone like that. But it's.
But that's where we need to know who we can talk to and who we can't. And that's the lesson learned. So, for example, I went back to the lady who told me the story and I said, well, one, you've learned she's not the person you're going to open your heart to, especially if she comes back. And then two, maybe you need to like shorten it up a little bit because it's too much too early. You're not anchored with that person enough.
Do you think that? Okay, so this is the most random of tangents, okay? But I think this might actually be the reason why. So we have so much content, so much media, so much things that we are consuming on a daily basis that we see all of these stories, right? In the last few weeks, I guess there was a couple, like a YouTube couple that maybe one of them might have murdered the other one. It was something in Utah, something like that. And have you guys seen this story? It was like opening news on like my sister was telling me about it. It was like they're like 20-year-olds and like in Montana in a van and yada yada yada. It's like I can't remember their names.
Good.
But she's telling me this story, and I'm like, who cares? Like
that's what I just did, right? Good.
Right. So you don't know them, right? And has that trickle effect of these things that like we don't know? Is that trickling into our world, our actual real world? So that we have.
With these algorithms, man, all these platforms know how much time you spend looking at these articles, looking at these pictures, watching these videos, and then you start doom scrolling, and then everything in your feed is just the worst stuff on the planet. And it's just totally dementing people. I mean, it's like
interesting. I've never heard the term doom scrolling. That's really interesting. That's wow. I wrote that one down. I'm like,
isn't it interesting? Like I see that, and obviously, someone being murdered in this case is a terrible thing. But I sit there and I'm just like, yo, like I live 2,000 miles away. This is unfortunate. I don't care. Why is this news? And maybe that's also because I worked in the news, so like I saw all that stuff, maybe not to the scale of like a New York City, but like, I'm just like, okay, I don't know. Like it's very odd to me. I would much rather see positive things than a lot of these negative things. I feel like the fact that people care about these things to me is just ridiculous in most cases.
I love what you just said about positive things because that is one of the main reasons why people don't keep friends. So if every time somebody sees somebody and then all they do is, and I loved when Tim said doom scrolling, because if all they're doing is like doom scrolling out of their mouth, I mean, those people, and you're just like, oh gosh,
because they're too negative, they don't stay friends.
They just want to like tell you everything that's bad in the world and nothing. And you're like, and I've actually said to some of those people before, and they usually don't get to stay in my circle long. I'm like, you got to tell me something good that's going on in your life. There's got to be something that you're happy of, proud of. Good.
We all have plenty of good things happening on a daily basis.
What's a blessing that's happened to you, or and then all of a sudden, and if I get them to think about it, but then it's funny because it's like they want to go back to it. So when we talked about that values list and the things that are important, joy and happiness and gratitude, and I mean these are all things that are on my value list. These are the people I roll with. And we all get sad. We all have terrible things that happen in our life, but happiness is a choice. Right. And even the worst things that we can deal with in our life, we have that choice. And it's like, are we going to be that person that's just going to stay there and dwell? Because guess what? Those aren't, or unless you're going to keep those kind of friends, but I don't recommend it because they're not going to make you grow.
So I listen to a couple podcasts every once in a while. I heard this quote in February 9th of this year, and I thought it was really good. I wrote it down and on a notebook because writing down things is good for you.
Me
And
too.
it's from an Olympian 10,000 meter runner, Alexi Pappas. I think she's from Greece, and she had gone to her coach, and I guess it had a bad workout, and was just explaining that to her coach. She might have been on the negative side of it, but I don't think she was. But she was basically like, I just had a bad workout. I'm having these bad workouts. What the hell is happening? Like, I don't get it. And I think what her coach and what I'm about to tell you from this actually can be used in life, right? And so I love the parallels between business and fitness. Her coach says 1/3 of, and this is workout specific, right? 1/3 of your workouts are going to be amazing. 1/3 of your workouts are going to be absolute trash, and 1/3 of your workouts are going to be somewhere in the middle and just okay. And that was a quote from her coach on life plus achieving her destiny. And I just think that's like, so like, if all we did was dwell on the negative, then we're going to continue to see that. But and that's in every, she's working out 7 days a week. So that means she's going to have 2 good, 2 bad, 2 okays, and something else. Our life is probably like that too. Right. But we don't look at it like that. And it's just like, hold on, like that was 9 months ago. And I just think it's very, very powerful. Like I'm running a marathon on Sunday. My run today actually wasn't good. So I was like, okay, this is actually good. I'm glad that it was a bad run because that means that good run is about to happen. Like it's interesting if we look at it from that sphere.
Absolutely.
A lot better things can happen from it.
Not everybody has to be like I've got some friends that have had some really terrible things happen during the pandemic. They've lost jobs, their finances, they've lost houses. I mean, okay, they're not going to be happy friends right now for a while. Okay. So people need to love us, because you started this whole show with, what is a friend? What's a true friend? Well, a true friend goes, I've known you for the longevity. And yeah, right now that 1/3, the 1/3 that you're showing up with me is not going to be good for a while. And we're okay with that. But what we need to realize is when we're early in relationships, people are expecting us to show up with giving more and being more interesting and more positive than at the beginning. And don't start, like I was telling you about the lady who jumped right into this heartfelt thing that was happening, because you don't have enough in the bank with that person yet emotionally.
So I can't tell everyone my deepest, darkest secrets on day one.
No, but you can set up a secret word with them. So it's really interesting collecting true friends. I want people to understand, though, because I know we're going to close up soon, Zack. I want them to understand it's an intent. I joke with people. I go, it can be a movement for you.
A lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle, but it is an action. That's why I purposely started with the verb collecting true friends. And when you look at it, we collect things all in our life. But if we don't start looking at the people, because what do we do with some of our collections of things, right? We eventually look back at it and go, why in the world am I keeping that one? My collection has gotten so much better, right? So unless there's something here that originally was sentimental, meant something to us, but we start evaluating any collection that we have and the worth of it. And then the big part, though, is then I got to know that I'm worthy of the people because if I don't show up worthy, then to give them time and devotion, and they're going to devote back to me, they're not going to keep me. So the one question I'll leave you guys with is, how many of the people in your inner circle invite you to come into their inner circle? Okay. So how many cross introductions are you doing? Because if they're not, and you're just seeing them on one-to-one, you need to start asking yourself, why are my friends not inviting me to meet their friends? Did I make you ponder on that one?
Yeah, that's great.
That made me hungry. Hungry for more.
So as we get ready to wrap, Elizabeth, I'm curious. Zack and I share the same sentiment on this. I'm curious your take. Is business personal? I
think it is. I've always thought it was, and that's why
and Zack and I are in the same boat.
That's why when I was in corporate, I used to get in trouble a lot because I had amazing relationships, and I also had secret relationships. There's another time I said secret, right? Because we were put in a corporate world where we weren't allowed and encouraged to fraternize with people or to mix outside of, like, in the vendor community or in other hospitals and other things. So yeah, but I went ahead and I persevered, and I had my own relationships with them. I think business is personal, because that's why I was able to do the rest of the things I've done in my life. A lot of those people that came to my book signings and celebrated with me were people from my past life.
We never know when those things are going to align either, right? And so that's why you got to keep the
You
friendships
don't.
there. I have
You
a client who, for 10 years, I was just friends with, was
Right.
not in the right position for this individual to buy something from me.
Right.
And then when they go to the correct job, it was like the first call, and it was like, boom, it was like Yahtzee. And I was like, hallelujah. But had I not, collected a true friend in that situation,
Yeah.
I would have lost someone in that situation. I would have lost a friend, which is the most important thing.
Right.
And then the secondary thing is I would have lost a little bit of cheddar, if you will. So,
Okay. But you were worthy of their time and devotion.
well, that is wonderful.
See? And I got to tell you, there was a lot of people that had a problem with that subtitle with me. They were like,
Well, you
I'm
know
not
what?
comfortable with worthy. And I'm like, well, then that's the right word. So because right now people it's kind of like an ugly word. They're like, well, you shouldn't talk about people's worth and their value. I'm like, no, we absolutely need to talk about that.
If people want to debate it, that means it's the right thing. If there's a battle between those things, it's the right thing. So as we close up, I want to make this point. Tim and I have always, we've talked about this a little bit before here, but he'll disagree with this. He didn't feel this way. But when Tim and I first met, we were not like true friends for a while. And it took a while for it to actually happen.
I like Zack. Zack just didn't like me.
I thought he was associated with one of those nincompoops, if you want to, with one of those, I don't even know what a nincompoop is. I feel like
nobody was vouching for you, Tim.
No,
because I was going out of my comfort zone, trying to expand my network and talk to people. So I approached Zack. So yeah, it was a cold email, a cold visit, and so I had to build and earn that.
And it was fine in this in-between phase, but I wasn't interested because he was associated with someone else who had done me dirty, that I wasn't willing to take that next step. But then
associated I don't know if that's very loosely.
He was associated. It was associated. This is like 2011 time frame, 2012. So then Tim, I sent out this email. Did you win that award that year or no? I can't remember. There was four of us, right?
Just nominated. Yeah, I didn't win.
Okay, so there was a handful of us that won this award from CIT, which is like some investment group out of Northern Virginia. And I was like super big into community at that point. I was like, yo, let's all go to DC together. And let's Keith Fervent had this big ass car, and he was like, I can have like 9 people in my car. And Tim was like, I'll be one of the ones. And I was like, screw it, let's do it. And so over beers, because beers always make things better.
Yes.
There was a connection. We realized that he was not loosely affiliated or lukewarm with this individual. And ever since then, he's been my boy. So thank you, December 5th, 2012. That was the day, maybe it was 2013, the day that that he became worthy. The truth
was revealed.
He became my true friend, and he became worthy of my time and devotion. As said by collecting true friends.
I love it.
He's like, I can't believe you told
Did you all notice that I made it very on the front of it? This is for everybody. So all ages, men, women, sizes, shapes, wherever they're from.
I just thought it was Rocky and his family, to be honest.
Rocky?
Rocky Balboa.
Especially the one on the.
That's why I said we need our belt in there. See, I should put a belt in there. I'm sorry, Tim.
Hey, what is your sticker on there? I don't have that on mine.
Oh, that's the bestseller. So when I went from this,
I got an OG.
That's the original one. You didn't get a bestseller sticker?
No, because I got mine.
Oh, because you got yours before it went bestseller. Yeah, that's because of the Canadian. So you have the original collectible.
I'm an OG.
Good. Yeah, I love it. I love it. So are you going to put the connection in there, how they can get hold of me? And
yes,
we're good on that. Good. Thank you. And then that has the link. They can go to collectingtruefriends.com if they want to read more, as well as that's my bio link. And it is on Amazon too, if they'd like a copy. I'd love to meet whoever's listening here though, because we're always about, it's what we're about. Love to meet the peeps.
Peeps with a Z.
The peeps.
Red Hawk, it's been absolutely wonderful having a
Thank
conversation.
you.
Tim, anything else?
No, appreciate the time, Red Hawk.
Thank you. And
Tim, thank you for a wonderful 9 years of being out of the
oh, I hope that's not the end of it. Is he like pushing you out the window now? So be careful, right?
I think Tim hates me most days. I'm like, oh gosh, like.
Well, send me over to your friends and family for speeches and media. We're out there right now. We're spreading the word to the message that we want to end loneliness. Loneliness does not have to happen. And I forgot to say this for those that are listening. Loneliness is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So you don't have to stay lonely. You can have friends. A life lacking true friends is fixable. It's totally fixable. And I'm part of that. So, yep, let me share the message.
Bam.
Red Hawk out.
Peace, pancakes, and mask. Later.